That's right. Greetings, fellow true believers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And Dragon, tonight we're talking about a show. A certain superhero show. No, it's not X-Men 80s. It's not X-Men 97. Or The Boys. Let's see, Dragon, let's see. Is it My Adventures with Superman?
No, not yet. That's we
Okay,
still need a bit of time on that one.
Shoot. Give me time. What about My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man? You guys
No,
just
we
did that, right?
already talked about that, Tiki.
Okay. Oh, wait. I know, Dragon. Are we talking about... Is that it? Did I get it right? Your mic is muted, Dragon. Did I get it right? Okay.
Tiki, that?
Wow. All right. Yes, we're talking Invincible. That was... Jesus. All right, you there, Dragon?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, your mic was... Yeah, you missed your cue.
Well, I don't know. Anyway.
Anyways, yes, tonight we're talking... Season 3, Episode 5. This was supposed to be easy. All right, so Dragon, since this is my first time on the recaps this season, I guess you're probably curious what I've thought of the season so far.
The thought had crossed my mind.
All right, yeah. I mean, naturally, I'm really liking it. I think the season is... I think season 2 is kind of like the the transitional, like, sort of stepping stone season. It was good. We had, we definitely had some improvements in certain elements of the storytelling, but season 3, I feel like we're really hitting the ground running in regards to the kind of the moral ambiguity of the season. And so I think the stakes have really been raised. Obviously, all the stuff with Cecil going on is great, very compelling stuff. Obviously, really, the first 2 episodes kind of kick that off with a bang. Not a big fan of starting with 3 episodes in a row, just mostly from the point of view of, like, I mean, I guess you and Rohit handled it as good as you could as far as the recap podcast goes, but it was just a lot to take in. But yeah, overall, I've been liking the season, and this episode is no different. I feel like this isn't maybe not the most. I mean, it is one of the more action-packed episodes of the season, but maybe not one of the most explosive from a character point of view. Still very good. What do you think, Dragon?
Yeah, I mean, I really, here's the thing, I really like this episode because, it kind of pairs, it's kind of a continuation of what we did in season 1, where we had the 5th episode, which was the big Titan episode, which in a sense, it's a very standalone kind of episode about, Invincible kind of circumnavigating kind of like what kind of crime on the street level. And we're kind of continuing that here, and I really appreciate that. And what I really liked is how it kind of tied into his arc overall with what he's contending with Cecil and everyone.
Sure.
The overarching theme of this season is distilled down to, like, the really excellent line that Cecil had, which is, "You can be the good guys, the guys who save the world. You can't be both." That's the mission statement thesis of season 3. Like, where is Mark going to come down this? Will Mark, admit? Basically, right now he's very stubbornly in the headspace of, there is no gray, there is no in between. Basically, admitting that he's admitting.
And I like that Mark being in that headspace at all is the morally gray thing. Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of like an admittance of, like, his father may or may not have had a point, which Oliver was kind of contending episodes back. And again, I love that. Basically, I guess the shorthand way of doing is basically we had kind of a Marvel Civil War-esque event with episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I love that, much like the kind of the Marvel movie had done in their adaptation of that. And more so with this, we showed that both sides are very much correct on this matter, but they both are a little flawed in their arguments as well.
So, Dragon, I don't know if you read my my video description for this episode, but it was basically like we break down the crazy breakout of the breakout attempt of multi-Paul, which we will do soon. We need to get to that, or else we'll be burying the lead. That was one of the craziest sequences of the show so far. We're also going to cover the return of Machine Head and a lot of the street level politics, like you said. But most importantly, Dragon, we are going to break down. Apparently my house is on fire, Dragon.
Oh boy.
All right, we're just gonna have to ignore that because that's been happening a little too frequently.
Okay, so you're not currently on fire then.
No, it's just the stove is,
Okay.
Okay. Most importantly, Dragon, Mark's got a little bit of a prison obsession this season.
Yes, he does.
we're gonna get into that from a character point of view, but first, Dragon. So, do you want to start with the Titan stuff, or do you want to start with multi-Paul?
Oh, we got to start with multi-Paul. We got to start.
Okay, yeah, because it is like genuinely one of the craziest moments of the series so far. I would say, probably up there with the train sequence. Like maybe not as visceral, but I mean it's close, man. It's like there's a lot of bodies involved here. This is genuinely one of the most insane uses of the duplication power I've ever seen. Is this out of the comics at all, Dragon?
Well, multi-Paul is from the comics. I double checked.
But not this particular like setup.
I mean, that's like I said, Tiki. My experience, like I've kind of said ad nauseum here. My experience with Invincible is I binged through the whole comic run. So it's like Invincible is a story. Unlike most superhero comics, Invincible is a story that has a very direct end. There's a beginning,
sure,
and there's an end. So I read through all of that, but I did it once. So when I went to the show, I'd be able to be surprised. But a lot of things will trigger memories. Now, admittedly, the multi-Paul escape, I don't know if it was original to the show or not. It feels very. I think I would have recalled that, but I don't know.
Right, yeah.
The multi-Paul thing might have been an invention for the show, but it's unclear. The background on multi-Paul and Kate, that is absolutely from the comic, though.
Definitely.
Anyway,
but yeah, I mean, Jesus, that escape attempt, man. I mean, like I said, it's don't you think it's up there as like one of the most visceral moments that we've had on the show so far?
I do, but I will tease you with this, Tiki. Again, I don't know per se. Look, I'm just saying I'll be shocked if they don't end the season the way I'm pretty sure they're going to end the season.
Do you think we're going to end it with the Anissa moment?
No. Oh, no, we're not going to. Well, for starters, we're probably not.
Because that's the big thing that I know is coming.
Well, regardless, we're not going to do that. This season, regardless, because again, we know we're already approved like multiple seasons. Like they're already planning. Like
as far as I know, they're saying season 5, right?
Well, season 5's definitely green. They're greenlit up to 5, possibly beyond 5, frankly, but at least up to 5.
Okay.
But that's the thing. So I mean, they're basically they're planning on coming out on like an annual basis at this point. Like they know, like Kirkman's like said, oh yeah, we're definitely coming out. We can't promise February every time, but it'll be coming out, annually.
Sure.
Regardless, let's just say the Anissa thing's just like a whole nother ball of wax. Let's not get into that. But let's just say I will be shocked if they don't end this season with the big event. There's a big event besides that. That's the infamous event. Besides that, the big event.
Yeah.
I'm convinced we got to do this season because it's already like in terms of the chronology of the story, which admittedly this season we've been following pretty closely. It would happen around this time. We foreshadowed this character at the end of season 1. We mentioned him that he's coming in season 2. That hey, if you don't fall in line, you're gonna have to deal with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just say, if you. I hesitate on comparing the multi-Paul thing to the train battle because we're easily going to rival the train battle with the way this season's going to end if they end the way we're all expecting. I don't even want to tell you.
I mean, the multi-Paul thing, I'm just saying, like, not as far as, like, action goes. Obviously, the train battle is more visceral from, like, an action point of view. But yeah. I'm just saying, in terms of, like, the sheer amount of dead bodies that we see on screen.
Well, in that regard, yes, there is a lot of dead poles. Dead poles up the yin-yang. Wall-to-wall poles.
I love the, I'm sure that censorship isn't really an issue, but I love the, if it were an issue at all, you could think that it is kind of a loophole of, like, well, it's just the same one guy being killed over and over again, technically speaking.
I was just thinking, this is really silly. I was thinking, like, tall Paul, in this case, dead Paul. Wall to wall.
Wall to wall Paul. Oh, God.
No, so seriously, it was a really cool escape. It's a bit of a buy that, I mean, here's the thing. Logic, I don't know, the way it happens is a bit of a buy that, okay, they would die that fast and flood the cell that fast, but it's really cool. So we don't care.
It's just for a visual. Like it's a cool visual, you know.
But the idea,
Um,
like we
for me, I
overflow.
think the bigger buy is that they didn't put that collar on him like initially.
Well, and that's the thing. It was very much like if he fell in, if he fell in line, being. I think most of these guys are purely kept to their cells in general, anyway. So I mean, I don't know. It feels like I feel like. Plus, I mean, Kate had been campaigning for his release.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the exact same penitentiary that Cecil was sent to, or that would be an
Mhm.
option. So if that were the case, well, then actually, for scratch that, we know it's the same facility because the giant blue sumo guy is in this prison later. So it is the same place.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, I think they extended some leeway because Kate was kind of campaigning for like kind of a work release kind of thing for him. So I mean, I'll give it a buy. But
Yeah, that makes sense.
anyway, it's a guess, mind you. But
Mhm.
anyway, so we get a cool escape. Then we put essentially the equivalent to the mutant control collars from the X-Men on him, to the power dampening collar. So we learn some about Paul and Kate's backstory here. So this so they don't get into the specifics here, just so you know. They kind of parallel the main villain of the episode to an extent. So Kate's powers are magical, actually.
Yeah, I kind of got the sense of that.
Yes, it's like a mystical. It's kind of like turning red. It's a mystical curse that's
Right,
passed down
right.
through the family. That's kind of the idea. So they inherited that, and
And
so
just seeing the
essentially,
father just absolutely catatonic, trying to like, oh my god, there's way too many kids. Two is bad enough, but now I'm dealing with dozens of them.
so apparently that's straight from the comic. That's
Uh-huh.
basically the mother died at childbirth, and then which I have to I pray was only it started with two babies, otherwise that's why she died in childbirth, and
Oh
that's just
no,
tragic.
I mean honestly, like if we're talking this show and the logic of this show, I would think that it's just yeah, I would think it's what you're thinking as far as like how she died,
Yeah, anyway,
which is gnarly, dude.
so the point being, the father went mad with all these kids are just kind of duplicating at a rate that would drive any parent mad. So he's catatonic in the GDA, essentially. Foster care in the GDA. They eventually got their hands on the kids and trained them. And Kate took to it in a positive sense. Paul, again, understandably, he feels a little betrayed, he feels a little hurt, again, a little misguided. But you get where he started from. But then turning
Mhm.
into kind of assassin who will just kill anyone at the drop of a hat. Little uncalled for.
Send him to prison, Dragon.
Yeah, no, he
You're going
deserved.
straight to prison.
Oh, how did you feel about the whole Paul thing at the beginning of the season? Sorry, let me rephrase it.
I thought it came a little bit out of nowhere. I'm not gonna lie, especially as like the catalyst to like the big Civil War event. But like honestly, now that we're getting more development on him and having the cool prison escape scene is like a really memorable set piece for him, I think it's probably gonna flow a little bit better on rewatch.
Well, I guess so. This episode, I think, did buy back some goodwill for Kate because a lot of people were hating on her after episode 2.
It's hard to blame him,
I mean,
honestly.
honestly, episodes 1 and 2, but in general, yeah. So
Uh,
Kate's that's yeah. So she's
Weirdly
doing a lot
enough,
of
I
work.
think last week's episode kind of bought back just a little bit of sympathy for the immortal.
Well, yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
say
So
again,
it's like
Kate
we're
was the
we're kind of on a roller coaster ride with both of them.
I mean, Kate though bore the brunt of it because she was being really insensitive to one of my favorite sporting characters in the show, Shrinking Ray. So,
Of course, which we need to get to her too.
oh yeah,
I think we should probably transition to her and Rex, just because I feel like there's some cool kind of mirror storytelling going on between their stories and the Kate and Paul stuff.
all right. Well, okay. So Ray and Rex.
Yeah, so I think obviously the big thing here that we're kind of mirroring with Ray and with Kate and Rex, or I'm sorry, Kate and Paul is the kind of the lost childhood angle, like where Rex and Ray are bonding over that, or bonding over the fact that they were essentially from a very young age like government lab rats, and it's kind of cool to see like them bonding over it, whereas the whole government being a big part of their lives is sort of what drew Kate and Paul apart in a way, and that's kind of the thing that's bonding Rex and Ray together. So I think it's a nice little parallel going on there. And I don't know, man. It's like, you know me. I was not. I don't think anyone was a major Rexplode fan in season 1, but I really wasn't. But I think it's safe to say that, like pretty much everyone else, I'm very won over by Rexplode in this season. I think it's a nice little arc he's going on. He's being humbled, and this dynamic that he has with Ray is just freaking adorable. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, again, they went through a very traumatic event, especially Ray. I mean, she was eaten.
Mm-hmm.
And, they've,
I will say that it is nice to kind of win back the whole, like, because when Ray first came back, it was like, but you just squandered, like, one of the most memorable deaths on the show. But it's like, no, you know what? It's fine if they're actually going to do stuff with her character, which, from what I understand, Ray was Ray. He was a guy in the comics.
Yes, that was the fun, and they kind of referenced that in this episode. If you notice,
Right.
Rex, he miswrote the name, so that was
And he was very much a kind of a background character. So it's nice that they're actually really taking these like kind of background, almost filler team members in the comics and really fleshing them out. That's definitely a good thing on the show's part. And yeah, I like where we're going here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, there was something, you could smell something in the air between these two crazy kids and the whole, like, the meal kit dinner, and the Immortals just rotted ancient wines. Like, that was adorable. But I've been saying this from the beginning, honestly, and it's just this season just really put in perspective. I've always really liked Shrink and Ray for a variety of reasons. The primary one, this is a silly reason. She feels like a Jack Kirby Brooklyn character, and I just really love it.
Of course, she's voiced by Grey Griffith, right?
Grey Griffin, yes.
I'm sorry.
AKA Grey Delisles, get it right. Thank you.
Peter Griffin, that's it. Sorry.
But yes, Grey Delisles, aka Grey Griffin. She voices who already my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's like one of the most like elder stateswomen voice actresses we have in the industry right now, and she's just a seasoned pro when it comes to these kind of characters.
Yes, I mean, it's already a likability, and she just feels like a New Yorker, and I just love it.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
All right. Okay, so speaking of love in the air, Morning After. So we had some Morning After comedy at the Grayson home.
Don't you just want to freaking choke Oliver in this moment? I heard you guys playing. You guys woke me up.
God.
I mean, we're going to get to a very humble, very nice Oliver scene a little later on, but in this moment, I want to choke the little bastard.
Until he's purple. Oh, wait.
Oh, God. I don't know. I love how the Mark and Eve stuff in this episode, it's almost kind of like the light, like, family sitcom element of this episode where, Mark has been dealing with some heavy stuff this season, but it's nice that, like, I'm sure going into the last batch of episodes, it's going to be very intense for young Grayson.
Oh, yeah.
But it's nice that this episode was, like, a little bit of a reprieve from that, at least as far as, like, maybe not, like, he's still stressed out. He's still, he's still dealing with his prison obsession and unpacking that. But at the very least, it's like we got some like sitcom style shenanigans going on, which is a nice change of pace here.
Yeah, so again, this is like selling you on the charm of the comic, which is Mark and Eve, when they're together, it's just cloud nine. It's just really good, natural, like, relationship stuff. It just feels really good for them. And, this was kind of a gag they had in the comic, but they didn't do like a whole breakfast. I think the whole breakfast thing is just really funny, and that was like their addition. Like in the comic, it was this little brief moment of the morning of Eve like is flying out the window, and like Debbie was like in the garden saying, "Yeah, studying my eye," or something like that. And this was great. I love the whole like the brotherly just kind of kicking each other. Hey, why are you kicking me? And the buttermilk pancakes, and Eve just playing it, just innocent. Oh yeah, these are great. I can never do buttermilk pancakes like this. Little food gripe, okay? How are Mark and Eve not using maple syrup on their pancakes? Who does that?
I don't know. I honestly, Dragon, as I get older, maple syrup has kind of become like a little too messy for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Really? You would do the pancake without syrup?
I like jam.
Well, okay. My point being, the pancake without any topping.
Yeah, without any topping is weird. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think we've
Weirdly enough, Greg, and I'm in the middle of Yellow Jackets, and this week's episode of Yellow Jackets also featured pancakes, and the daughter of one of the main characters was like, "Mom, just be sure to make the pancakes with chocolate chips, otherwise they kind of suck." So it's kind of like a fun little parallel we have with the pancakes between two of my most favorite shows that I'm watching currently.
Like, as far as the reprieve business goes, Steve, you're absolutely right. We're very much. I really feels like we're lulling everyone into a false sense of security for when all the bad stuff's around the corner.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
Oh boy! And if they end the way I think they're going to end this season,
We
it's
got
going to
what,
be
like 3 episodes left, right? It's
well.
ending on
This
on
is
8.
5. This is 5 out of 8, so we have 3 left.
Yeah, yeah.
It seems like, I mean, that's the thing. I know 2 big events happen now. The way it seems right now, given what we kind of tease in the post credits, it does feel like we have. It seems like we're going to do 2 big events versus just one. So it seems like penultimate will be pretty substantial that we've kind of hinted at, and then if I'm right, final episode. If it's played the way dear God, I hope it's going to be played. It'll be like you forgot about it just long enough, and it's going to like wham right there, and it'll be like the most shocking, like
Nice,
amazing.
nice.
Oh my! The only way you're going to rival season one's ending.
Hmm.
Anyway,
I do
so
think this show has done a good job of like season two's finale might not have been as cataclysmic as season one's, but I do think we've done a good job of exploring the like the mental ramifications of that moment in season three. Like in retrospect, it was still a pretty big turning point for Mark's character.
yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah. So, but regardless, so I love here like the back to the actual kind of like character kind of development on Mark here is that he's growing up, and I love that he's contemplating getting his own place, and it's this thing of it's not just the comedy of they want some private time, but it's the thing of like there's a very legit concern over Debbie's safety, so it's like
Mhm.
maybe the whole thing happened with Angstrom Levy, last time we should probably be away from this house.
Right, right.
But again, I love that Debbie doesn't want him to go. Debbie likes having him around. It's not that kind of a thing where she's like, oh man, she's not like having another burden with this. It's like what, she likes having him around.
No, I mean, if anything, the burden would be if he left and she was like, like she was just left to take care of Oliver by herself. That would be the burden.
Well, true. Well, she did raise. Well, I was going to say she raised a super kid already, but she didn't really raise a super kid with powers until he was
Not under
17.
these
I
circumstances.
know, but
Yeah.
yes, you're right. Yeah. Okay, so point being, in the efforts of going after the apartment, we this is from the comics. We take a stab at Invincible Inc.
I assume this is from the comics. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's talk about Mark's fucking prison obsession thing, because this has been a running thing, a very much a
Mhm.
running thing throughout the whole season so far.
Oh yeah.
Over halfway through, Mark's solution to literally every problem is you're going to prison. Come with me. I'm taking you to prison.
It's kind of the Indiana Jones, like this belongs in a museum. He belongs in a prison.
But I really kind of dig this because it's like obviously Mark is not like full blown like evil yet, but like you can kind of see the stepping stones of like he's literally profiting off people's incarcerations and the idea that they're not going to get rehabilitated.
Well, yes. I mean, I don't know. In a
No,
sense, I
Dragon,
think he's
Mark Grayson is very much anti-rehabilitation when it comes to
no,
the
no, no. I
prison.
know.
I mean, he
Yes.
made his point on that quite clear in
No, no.
episode 2.
I know he's. I'm referring to the second part of that. Yes, he's very much banking on the anti-rehabilitation, but by the same token, though, I mean the expectation that okay, there's going to be breakouts and stuff. That's. I don't know. He's profiting off like necessarily the failure of the system there, but he knows like people are going to try and break him out or vice versa. So, but you're right though. He's very
I don't
anti.
know. I feel like morally it's a little bit of a slippery slope, Dragon.
Well,
Especially given his hard stance on like, no, these guys can't be rehabilitated. They're evil forever once they've done one bad thing. And I forget if it was it episode 4 that we got that like awesome silent cold open with the 2
No,
criminals.
that was 3.
Yeah, so I feel like that was like genuinely one of the best cold opens the show's done. I
I
feel
know,
like
I really loved it.
that episode, it would have made it even like kind of over the top. I don't know if this would have been almost too dark, but wouldn't it have been like a gut punch if those were the people that Oliver killed instead of the Maulers?
Oh my god, that would have been. But then again, the Maulers are like we've
The
invested in
Maulers are the
this.
gut punch, like from like a fan favorite point of view.
Yeah,
It's like,
that's what I mean. That's
no,
where it's like
no, you
it's a
took
big
away our
deal.
guys.
Yeah,
But but we knew they were bad guys to a certain extent. With the prisoners that we saw in that cold open, it's like it would have been like a fucking like up level gut punch if Oliver killed them.
well, you're right about that. Yeah.
So I'm glad they didn't go that way because I think it would have been almost too dark. I feel like that would have, especially because we do get some wholesome stuff with Oliver this episode. I feel like if he would have killed those people, it would have been like kind of like a point of no return for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but those characters, that cold open, like it just perfectly represents why morally, as far as just the whole like Cecil using supervillains thing and trying to rehabilitate them, like Mark is pretty blatantly wrong about that moral stance, I think.
Yeah, I mean it is interesting that we're seeing that oddly the government entity has a more of an open mind towards rehabilitation than Mark does.
Right.
But by the same token, though, again, I love that there's kind of an argument for both sides to a degree in what we're seeing. Now, obviously, Mark, again, we saw these guys did make an honest run at it, but sadly, end up back to their old ways. But again, there was an attempt that he'll never know about. And again, I love the moment of hesitation where one of them you could have attacked Oliver, and he did, and that was what his undoing was by Invincible's hand. But again, Mark's not seeing those shades of gray.
Exactly.
And this is what I love about Titan as a character, by the way. Titan is a character in the first season who kind of opened his eyes to the gray, and more than ever, Titan is very necessary in doing that here for him. And I think he kind
I feel like
slowly...
Titan is gonna, like, as the series goes on, is gonna be like a bigger and bigger piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, there's again, I want to get we'll get to Titan in a sec, but just in general, though, I love that Cecil, that so far episode 2 seems to be like one of the best episodes of the season where we saw like Cecil's backstory and just the stance. I love the idea that before we link up with his current dilemma with Mark, we saw that he came from the exact same place as Mark, where he shot criminals in the head, that killed 17 people, and like he refused to work with them. But then being in the prison system, he's kind of wrapped his mind around the idea of, okay, there is gray and there is a benefit to to not just rehabilitation, but also kind of a necessary evil kind of a thing.
Sure.
But by the same token, later on, when he put the new possibly psychotically unhinged, Darkwing, who seems, again, we had two cases of, for example.
Yeah, Darkwing's definitely a moral gray there because like he's obviously trying, that's the moral gray of it all. He's obviously trying, but he is also like clearly unhinged. So it's like,
here's where
I'm definitely more on Cecil's side than Mark's side, because I just think like the idea that like, again, like I keep going back to that cold open. It's like, like what are we if we're just going to just cast these people who have maybe fallen onto just very difficult, almost impossible life circumstances, and then just saying like, no, you don't get another chance. Like you are a bad person for the rest of your life because of circumstances that were somewhat out of your control. You know what I mean?
Here's where I come down on it, Tiki, is that in that episode, okay, we had 2 cases of rehabilitation. Both in both cases fueled the argument of one of Mark and Cecil. Think about it. D.A. Sinclair, that's absolutely Mark's argument being proven right, in which this guy is, we Operation Paperclipped him, essentially, okay? We're using, essentially, it's like the whole Nazi science thing, where it's like, we end up going to the moon because of, the mistakes of then. And, it's more or less, I'm just saying in terms of, like, we use, like, a lot of, we use scientists, and the point being, very much in the wrong. We're rewarding Sinclair, and for we didn't send him to prison. We gave him a bigger lab instead. What does that do to his poor victims that have to live with the consequences and are still kind of in pain? Like that. Mark's absolutely right about something like that being wrong and shady, and that's like Cecil
Sure.
keeping that in the
You're right.
dark.
It is good. The Operation Paperclip thing is definitely a good example there. Yeah.
And on the flip side of it, though, you're absolutely right. Though I mean, Darkwing, his sidekick, was in a position where he was overwhelmed. He had a psychotic break. He seems to be remorseful. There's an actual case for rehabilitation. But because Mark is blinded by the D.A. Sinclair thing, he's lumping the rest of that in without factoring in the gray. And that's the problem. And and I would attest to this, I'm on Mark's side only because, again, I'm on both sides. There's no necessarily completely right side to this argument.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, Cecil seemingly has been promising transparency, and he did loop Mark into that. Okay, Cecil originally did not really have a major contingency for Mark aside from
I feel like the one transparent thing about Cecil's relationship with Mark is that there's not going to be transparency. Like, no, kid, I'm going to be a sketchy motherfucker throughout this whole thing. Like, like the whole line about like, Mark, don't you think that if we wanted to watch you, we could be? And it's like, yeah, he obviously is.
And again, I love they didn't quite lie to him about that too.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But you see what I mean, though? It's just the transparency of, like, hey, we're, I don't know. It just feels, there was like, I guess with the transparency, what I'm getting at is, think about like Batman and Superman, for example. Many iterations, Batman is given the kryptonite by Superman, that kind of thing. He's like telling him, okay, look, as a contingency, given what happened with your father, which could be a concern, and the fact that, hey, we have more Viltrumites coming, we need contingencies that could affect Viltrumites, including you. That's what I'm saying. Like, these are like the little things that might have gone a long way if Cecil just primed him for it, which he did.
Right, yeah.
That's anyway. So drifting off focus there, getting back to kind of where we're going with the arc, though. So Titan, as a character, has always been like Titan. Mark helped this guy out. He helped a criminal out who basically made a very compelling case that he was doing it for the betterment of the streets and that he wasn't really a bad guy. And Titan wasn't wrong. And however, he was manipulating Invincible, and Invincible almost died at the hands of Battle Beast, who, as you've seen, is a force to be reckoned with.
God, fucking Battle Beast at the end of last episode was amazing.
Exactly. So again, Battle Beast almost killed Mark in that episode last season. So he's got some harsh feelings with Titan. There's a lack of trust, but just the build to that. So Titan in general, this episode is check in where he is. I love the character. I love that he's kind of like, it's kind of like the premise of season 3.
In some ways, Titan is almost like the heart of the damn show.
Yeah, I mean, I love his Titan character. I think it's a shame. I mean, I love that we have him at least sound like the actor, but it's a shame we couldn't get Mahershala Ali back. But at least he does feel still like Mahershala Ali.
Yeah, he's too busy making that Blade movie that's never actually going to come out.
Yeah, but now he's crossing with your franchises.
What franchise is that?
He's in
Jurassic. Right, yeah.
Anyway, so I love that in a sense, Titan is kind of like the Luke Cage season 3 that we're never going to
get. Yes, absolutely. I totally see that.
Just thinking that he is kind of like, he's in the position of Luke Cage, where essentially he's in the kingpin position, but he's essentially he's kind of like the crime boss of Harlem, but but it's kind of forced upon him. But he's running things right. He's not really doing criminal stuff to the neighborhood. He's actually turned the neighborhood around for the better. And I love that he makes that case to Invincible. That look, things are a lot better now. I love him and his kid just kind of walking to school and everything, completely safe with people around, but they're not like in their face.
Mm-hmm.
So he's dealing with the Order and Mr. Liu, which essentially is kind of like I'm not going to say just the hand, but it's like basically kind of like a global criminal network, and we have kind of.
It's essentially like Invincible's version of that.
That's what I mean. It's essentially the hand, but I'm sure there's a better like deep cut comic kind of example.
Right.
But the point being, yeah. So Mr. We set this guy up he was at the tail end of. Here's the thing: in season 1. When Nolan and Debbie went to Paris, they were fighting a dragon. That dragon was this guy.
Yep.
And at the tail end, we saw him in the human form. So point being, so we're paying this guy off. He wants Paul. He wants Paul released in 24 hours, or else. And it's not that he can't release Paul on his own, but this is a loyalty test to see if this guy's going to fall in line, or we're going to have to, change who we have doing as the intermediary.
Mm-hmm.
So Titan's got quite the dilemma here, and again, big takeaway. Titan argues that this is for the greater good, which again thematically ties in the whole good guys or the guys, the guys who save the world thing. And again, Mark is just he's making a very stubborn choice here versus forgiveness, which again is the very Superman thing to do. Where Superman would forgive and forgive, but often it would bite him in the end, but he would forgive. And Mark is kind of bumping up against that. Like, no, I'm not going to forgive. This guy's a criminal. I know he's a criminal because
he belongs in prison.
That is literally his argument here, and I love that we have him outside later on. When this conversation doesn't go his way, all right, you're going to prison.
That to me is like the moment where it's like, okay, Mark, you're taking this prison thing a little too far, buddy.
But that's the thing; he's taking a really hard line on it. He's trying to be uncompromising, and he's going to learn the hard way that he's going to have to make some compromises. Oliver is proof of this. Oliver, he killed the Maulers. So he's going to have to reconcile that, and that's kind of what we're going to be looking at, I think, between this season, especially probably next season, be my guess. But yeah, so I by the way, I want to say this. I absolutely love Titan's escape plan. It's like the coolest thing I've seen. I just love that he's went down there and they had all of his guys wearing hoodies. Just as the perfect escape.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot smoother than the multi-pole escape. Multi-pole is probably a little bit more memorable, but that's it's the more effective approach for sure.
But again, I really love Titan's approach where he comes at him conversationally. He was causing a ruckus at the prison, not hurting anybody, just to get him to show up there. By the way, thanks to Invincible Inc., which we somewhat sidestepped because of the whole prison thing. But again, in general. So Mark has a job where he's now basically the superhero on call, and Eve had a really good presentation for this, by the way, of what if you had a superhero on the payroll that would show up when you text him. Yep, I also loved the professional Eve look with the glasses and the pantsuit and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks where you're going. The reason I really loved Invincible Inc. It reminds me of my favorite run of Deadpool because Deadpool he was so successful for a brief time that he had Deadpool Incorporated.
Right.
God, and the Gail Simone runs. Every time I have there's a superhero with ink at the end. In most cases, Batman Incorporated. Yeah, that's Grant Morrison for you. Anywho, okay, so let's talk about one of your favorite characters came back this episode.
I know where your family lives.
Played by the wonderful Burn Notice's Jeffrey Donovan, coming back, playing Machine Head, and having a great time doing it. It feels like.
I mean, just conceptually, this guy's not the deepest villain in the show at all, but just conceptually, he's so fun.
He's just your favorite loudmouth, crime boss,
Right.
Just him calling out the betrayal, the smart betrayal of Titan last season, and how, oh yeah, you didn't expect that, do you? That I have a boss. But yeah, the move that the deal that he strikes with Machine Head, I found was really ingenious. But again, Titan is really smart, and I love that for him as a character. That he is making the right deals. He's making really compelling arguments. Everyone's looking at him as a kind of a dumb thug, but in reality, he's moving up the ladder.
Yeah, totally.
He's got very simple, very achievable, very non-threatening goals, and I think that makes him really easy to make deals with. All right, so again, it's it feels like had Invincible made a controlled deal, this could have gone a lot smoother for him too. That perhaps, hey, let's just attack Mr. Liu instead of fighting the dragon.
Exactly. Right.
Had Invincible been fully on board, but regardless, he serves a purpose. All right, so we have one awesome Chinese dragon fight.
Do you want to quickly talk about the that one Oliver scene before we get to that? Because I feel like it's worth bringing up.
Yes, we should.
Yeah. So it's a great kind of subversion of what we've been seeing with Oliver so far. The moment that Oliver goes to pants the bullies, it's I'm sure the audience as well as Mark himself just is breathing the biggest collective sigh of relief. But although I will say that I think the scene is almost kind of intentionally supposed to put you into a false sense of security regarding Oliver, and I don't know if there's any like big cataclysmic stuff coming up with Oliver, but I will say that like I kind of got the sense of like, okay, like just because he's pantsing the bully now doesn't mean he can't be pushed to go further, you know?
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing, Tig, is that again I don't fully remember what we're doing immediately with Oliver, and if there's something really bad coming for him, I'm not sure. I don't recall there being, but then again, I don't know. I forget completely how he factors into the big thing that might end season 3. So
I just don't trust the kid Dragon. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, a lot of people are very iffy on Oliver because they killed their favorites.
Right, understandably.
Seriously, I always loved the Maulers. Just love the fact that there was the
I do think
Kurt.
that, like, as far as like storyline progression goes, though, I think that it's kind of nice to have them taken off the map just from like they were fun, but I kind of feel like
there's a temptation to do the Maulers all the time. They're you know, it's...
right, and I feel like their gimmick had pretty much like played out about as far as you could play it out. You know,
and we had wall-to-wall Maulers at the top of season 2. It was only so
exactly,
much. Really.
Yeah.
But that's you're right. No, they were taken off the board at just the right time. But I in general, though, I love you'll love them enough just to miss them, but not to miss them necessarily all the stuff you'd be lacking from them.
It's a really good choice to have them be the big kill from Oliver, the big first kill.
Plus, I mean, the reason it had to be the Maulers ultimately is that these guys are a force to be reckoned with, and it would be a thing where, again, so they someone who could believably overwhelm the heroes, but not a Viltrumite, an uncontrolled Viltrumite, let's put it. And the other thing, too, again, is I always loved Kirkman has like a mastery over the subversion, in which again the Maulers you're expecting like kind of like Joe, kind of like John DiMaggio sounding brutes, but in reality, it's like the very astute kind of Kevin Michael Richardson.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just like these guys are actually really smart. Anyway, okay, so his point being, false alarm with Oliver. He's sneaking out, but he's made friends.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, next day, awesome dragon fight going on.
I will say, Dragon. I think this fight kind of illustrates like the budget issues we've been having with the animation this season. Like, it's not a terrible fight. I just think compared to some of the other like really epic fights that we've had throughout the series, this kind of falls short just as far as like the sense of scope and timing and flow of the animation. It felt a little clunky. Like, it's still cool conceptually, don't get me wrong. I don't know. I do know that the animation budget kind of being cut in between seasons has been a little bit of a point of conversation. And honestly, if I was Amazon, like, this is like probably the biggest hit you guys have going right now, especially because the latest season of The Boys kind of seemed to be pretty divisive. I still haven't gotten to it. I want to, but like, this to me is like Amazon's flagship show for the most part. So like, if I were Amazon, if Amazon was smart, I would basically give them infinite money,
That's the thing. Invincible could go, in theory, 9 seasons.
Right.
But again, a story with an ending, though. It's not like a never-ending 9 seasons.
No, but but I'm just saying, like if it's going for 9 seasons, that's fine. But like, I kind of feel like the fact that the animation is getting noticeably a little bit trimmed back compared to season 1 is it's kind of a problem.
Well, my theory is this, Tiki. My theory is, I mean, honestly, I didn't notice a big drop in the animation, but you got to remember, Invincible, a lot of the time, there's a lot of conversation scenes in which that's how we save money in Invincible. We kind of keep the action like just targeted to what we need it to be. I'll admit, when you have a big dragon fight, unless you're on where there's only so much you can really do the reinvent the wheel on that. So you're gonna have to, it's an indestructible, Chinese dragon. It's essentially what we're doing here. And so I think, I don't know if it's just more so like the type of fight, or maybe that was like their solution. Okay, that's how we're gonna like maybe save a little bit on the budget here, because it's an indestructible giant thing. But I'll tell you this: it feels like, if I'm a betting man, again, if they end the season the way I think they, which is a huge monolithic fight, that's where all the money's going into.
Right, and I can see that.
If they're smart, because they're going to have to rival like the finale of season 1 if they do that fight.
Exactly.
So I don't know. We'll see there. Regardless, so the point being, we have a fight. Eve's in on the action. They really support each other. In the
I love
field.
Eve's like the pink armor on her.
Yeah. Yeah, like Mark gets to use her as like a mace or something. Like he throws her around.
Oh,
Also, I love it. It was so adorable, the whole thing of like Mark. We, you know, we're a couple now. We can do this together. He says, oh yeah, you're right. We can. There's a whole plus. Maybe they'll charge. Maybe we can charge extra because it's two
oh God.
heroes. So anyway, we have a really cool fight go on there, and ultimately, again, Machine Head gets sprung, and he shoots shoots Mister Liu in the head after we teleport the thug off into a fall. And so the dragon's taken care of, and again, just Titan gets to walk away scot free, much to Invincible chagrin. Reminds me a little bit of the gag in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I gotta be honest, it's like this. I bring it up because it's like this running gag where Jake Peralta had an arch nemesis, but it was like a very friendly arch nemesis. He had the Pontiac Bandit, who was Craig Robinson. Craig Robinson he would basically be his best friend, tease him and everything, but he would always get away, which is like the cop always like losing his perp. And it's like every time it's like he and Invincible had very somewhat cordial interactions, and then he just kind of like disappears on him.
Right.
So leave him with just the stymie him. Okay, so basically we reveal Machine Head. He's now taken Mr. Liu's seat, and in return though, Titan gets to keep the city, and the city.
I do like how Machine Head is very much like. Again, he pretty much just reiterates the whole "I know where your family lives" thing a lot more threatening and a lot less. Yeah. Ha! That's a funny delivery.
I'll drown you in your daughter's blood and rip and
right.
Eat your wife's flesh, and I don't even eat.
It's like, okay, suddenly I know where your family lives is a lot more intimidating, dude.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
But again, it's mostly a scare tactic from him, though. I don't know.
Well, that's what I like about Machine Head, though, is that the dude is like such a character. He's such a showboat.
Plus, again, Jeffrey Dahmer just cracked me up too, and he's just like, that was. I know it sounded like it was to the room, but it wasn't to you, man. It's like a slaying mantis. All right, let's see. So Debbie, she tells. So then we have the bit with Mark. Basically, okay, Mark and Eve decide very adultly to kind of take things slow for the time being.
Which I'm glad that the show addressed that, because I do think that pretty much everyone watching, I think it was a pretty common consensus. Mark and Eve, great couple, great chemistry. They were moving too fast, and I don't know if that was like a pacing thing or if it was like an intentional storytelling decision, but I do think that they were moving too fast in their relationship. So I do like that we have a very adult, acknowledging, moving in together almost immediately after we're getting together. Not a good plan.
Yeah. But they're, again, they're in a good place, though, which I think is important. So anyway, so while they're kind of slowing things down, again, he's sticking around and keeping an eye on Oliver and everything. And Debbie, Debbie tells Mark that she knows what's going on.
Mark is just fucking mortified.
Yep, he doesn't want to face it, so he cleans up everything. Dodges that bullet. But again, let's just mention the fact that Debbie's cool with it too is like, hey, she doesn't care what goes on.
Debbie hasn't gotten a ton to do this season, but I do like that she's basically just in just full blown supportive mom mode. She knows that her son is an adult at this point, so you know.
Plus, he's earned it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so then our post credit is we basically see it somehow. I'm not really sure how exactly this works.
I gotta say, Dragon, I am not a fan of this. This does not. This, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that kind of that endless slodge of either post credits or cliffhangers we had in the Fox era of superhero movies, where it's like, oh no, Dr. Doom is somehow still alive.
Yeah, he's in the shipping container.
Right. I don't love this. I don't because I feel like we've got so much other stuff going on in this season that I don't love that it's okay, now we've got we're gonna fight the dragon again eventually. It doesn't make me excited. It just makes me frustrated more than anything else, because we know that we're we're building to the Viltrumite invasion, but there's also other stuff that's on the table that's a little bit more immediate. So I don't know. It just seems to me it's just kind of an unnecessary, like, building out suspense to a thing that I don't really care about.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And that I was I don't recall him coming back, but I think it was just he probably
And
came back in
honestly,
the
the whole
sense.
Mr. Lou thing in general is very Jackie Chan Adventures to me,
Well,
which
hey,
isn't
don't say
really
I
a
don't want.
bad thing per
Yeah,
se, but it doesn't really vibe with the show.
yeah. Well, here's the thing. Again, I imagine he came back just in the sense of like all comic book characters come back in some way, shape, or form.
No one's ever really gone.
Exactly. So in that sense, I'm not truly bothered by it, but I'm with you though. I do call the moment it happened, I called BS, and there's no way that one guard's alive. He was dropped from that huge a height,
Right. Yeah.
And then the fact, plus, I mean, Lou was like shot in the head. Yeah, I know he cleaned the body, but still, it didn't look like he had like.
Yeah, I don't. It's frustrating. I don't buy it, and I hope.
And plus, it kind of diminishes the whole thing. That he also had a dragon spirit that he passed on to him. It just feels like, come on. So I'm with
I
you.
just hope that this doesn't like slow down the pacing too much, because I just feel like, like the dragon.
I don't think we're going to see him this season again. It'll probably be like down the line. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So, the point being, it's not really like a now issue, but I'm with you in that it's of all the post credit stuff that we've gotten this season, it's definitely the weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of BS, but I'm not perturbed by it because I liked all the other stuff that came. So
Sure.
How great was that threat though from Mr. Liu, where his daughter like sold all of her cookies, and like she comes home all happy and go like, "Oh, I sold my cookies to a man with a funny medal now."
Yeah, pretty dark.
Yep. How adorable is his kid, by the way?
Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's all sounded really nice. That with his success, she was sick. She had she had to take medicines and everything, so she's good now. Anyway, okay. Yeah, that's. Oh, I will get your take on one thing before we go.
Yes.
So with the Viltrumite invasion, just the fact that we revealed we have less than 50 Viltrumites. What did you think of that?
Yeah, honestly, Dragon, something I did kind of know from the comics. Like, I don't know everything that we're building up towards, but I do know that, like, one of the end game things is the fact that there is a limited number of Viltrumites. So it's kind of like, all right, like the stakes are pretty clear. Like, it's not. It's a hard goal to accomplish, but it's not an impossible goal. So I like that. It definitely I feel like it both adds to the stakes, but it also kind of gives the audience just like one of the rare occasions in the show where it does give the audience a little bit of hope that like this shit can possibly be overcome.
It kind of takes me back to the old days of Pokemon to a degree, where it's like now like the Gen 1 Pokemon era was like 150. So like now I love that you can kind of count backwards from like, okay, well he turned, he's dead. We've killed
right. Yeah.
We've killed roughly 3 or 4 Viltrumites, and then Nolan's off the table. So that's we're down. If we were at 50, we're already under 50. So maybe like we're roughly around like maybe 43 or 45. That's
come back tomorrow, kids, and we'll finish off the Viltrumite rap.
So yeah.
But on a dark note, though, it's definitely set up for Anissa wanting to repopulate.
Yeah, I know but again, Tiki, I will be. Kirkman's gone on record. He said, there are 2 things, and we kind of referenced this already, like episode 4, I think. Episode 4, I always, this is just me. I don't think anyone else has ever made this comparison. I'm convinced that the Paul F. Tompkins narrator, he sounds a little like a more theatrical version of Kirkman. So I like to think that's literally Kirkman as the.
No, I can see that. Yeah.
But regardless, as I say, it's kind of in a sense.
Like how we have the animated James Gunn in the Creature Commandos credits.
Yeah. So that's just me. The point, we have a narrator who I don't even think we've ever really had a narrator in the comics. But then again, it could just be like screen direction, kind of like Bubbles. So I don't know.
Right.
The point being, the Paul F. It's kind of like Kirkman going on record saying he doesn't like to animate nudity. Like he doesn't like seeing it in motion versus like just having it in the thing. And on the flip side, It's just he says that we won't really be seeing like sex either. So by that logic, I highly doubt we're going to. I don't think we're going to touch that scene at all. I would be. I want them to.
Really?
I don't think. Here's the thing.
I mean,
I
as
just.
far as I know, it's like one of the big, like,
I know.
pivotal turning points in Mark's character in the comics.
That's the frustrating thing, T. Because also that was you gotta remember that was hugely controversial when they did it in the comics.
Right,
When they
right.
did that, now I don't think they should shy away from it. I
No,
think
I mean,
like
I
because
will say, I think like just the idea of normalizing sexual assault against
yeah,
men is, I think it's an important issue, and I think it's
I think
something that
so
the show
too.
could like shine a light on.
I'd like to put it this way. I really think they should do it. I have a feeling they won't, but if they do, I think the way we would be able to do it is again if we just if we frame it differently, which
I think, yeah, all we really need to do is just have a cutaway,
yeah,
like have it about to happen, and then cut to Mark like shell shocked after it's happened.
exactly. If they can do
Yeah,
that, I think that's the only way we're going to be able to do that. But it's just the question of so Kirkman is readapting his
which is
own
really
material.
funny considering all the other fucked up shit that Kirkman is like willing to put on screen for this show, but no, but nudity,
And like I said,
absolutely
it's like
not.
it's always the weird thing where again it's the whole thing of like we're okay, violence a okay, the sexuality, the nudity never. It's
Exactly.
always
Yeah, yeah.
that said, we did get a little bit of nudity this season, very briefly, with Rex. But aside from that, anyway, I guess what I'm getting is that Kirkman's readapting his own material with this show, and he's been doing it expertly so far. As far as like
uh
very much like under the red hood style, in terms of like an author going back to his material and making it even better, in my book.
Sure.
So by that logic, this will be a bit that honestly, T, when we get to that moment, whenever it is, it won't be this season. I know that much. It'll probably
Mhm.
be next season. Because let me put it this way: Mark is going to earn Nissa's respect before that happens. So he hasn't done
Okay,
the thing. He
okay.
hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, right.
Regardless, my point being is it that will be the biggest determination of okay, that'll be the biggest change they're going to make if he completely sidesteps that because there's dominoes that happen
Again, from
because of
what I
that.
understand of just like the comic in general, and it's not like I looked up like a whole like beat by beat breakdown of the plot or anything, but I have watched a couple video
Mhm.
essays, and like from what I understand, that is like a pivotal turning point in
It
Mark's
is.
character development.
I
Yeah,
mean, two major things come out of that event. It's basically again, it's kind of the ramifications for his mental state and also like his relationship. And the flip side,
right.
it's what comes from that trauma that might be some characters down the line per se. you know, I'm
Exactly.
just saying that that'll be a big thing that we're missing if we don't if we don't do it. So that makes me think we kind of have to do it, but I don't
Mhm.
know. Anywho,
All right. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the last three episodes, especially if it's as explosive as you're teasing. I think we're doing a really good job this season of kind of like, I think there's certain subplots that are a little bit like iffy. Like I'm not in love with just like Monster Girl and the robot, like just continuing to have this sort of like awkward kind of like I'm not in love with that dynamic, but we're not really dwelling on it too much. We just have the moments where Monster Girl's like, you're being weird again. Like, like I don't know. I'm not in love with that stuff. I've never really that's always kind of been one of the more weird parts of the show. But other than that, I feel like pretty consistently, like, with the Rex and Ray stuff in the league side of things, Cecil has certainly gotten a lot of development, I think we're really building stuff up, and it's going to be a fun ride to the finish.
I'm going to tease this before we go. There's a special guest this coming episode, and I think you're really going to like who it is.
Okay,
All right.
cool. All right. Well, I guess any final thoughts on your end, Dragon?
Yeah, well, again, I thought this. I love when we use Titan, and we gave him kind of a wide berth with season two. We're focused more on Mark's side of things. So this is I thought this is great, and again, I really hope it's a stepping stone to kind of where he's going in terms of like kind of the Civil War kind of event that he's kind of going on with Cecil. So fingers crossed. I'm loving it so far, and dear God, I can't wait to see the finale this season.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us this week, folks. Stay tuned for next week as we tackle yet another installment of Now Come With Me. You're going to prison.
Deadpool